The greatest discoveries in history are often hidden behind the greatest misconceptions. For centuries, the world celebrated Christopher Columbus as the first European to reach America in 1492. But what if that story was only part of the truth? Nearly 500 years before Columbus ever crossed the Atlantic, a group of fearless Viking explorers may have already landed on the shores of North America. Their remarkable journey, once dismissed as legend, is now supported by archaeological evidence that has rewritten a crucial chapter of history. These were not royal explorers searching for a new empire. They were skilled sailors from the harsh lands of Scandinavia, driven by survival, curiosity, and an extraordinary determination to venture beyond the edge of the known world. Using longships built from timber, guided by the stars, the sun, and generations of seafaring knowledge, they challenged one of the most dangerous oceans on Earth. Their voyage would take them farther west than any known European had traveled, leading them to a land filled with dense forests, rich wildlife, and unfamiliar coastlines unlike anything they had ever seen. Yet despite the significance of their achievement, their story gradually disappeared from popular history, surviving only in ancient Norse sagas passed from one generation to another. For centuries, many scholars believed those stories were nothing more than myths. However, modern discoveries would eventually prove that the legends contained an astonishing truth, revealing that the first European footsteps in North America may have belonged not to Columbus, but to the Vikings. The men behind this extraordinary voyage were known as the Vikings, a name that still echoes through history with images of fearless warriors and legendary seafarers. Yet the real Vikings were far more than raiders. They were expert navigators, skilled craftsmen, ambitious traders, and remarkable explorers who lived across the rugged lands of Norway, Denmark, and Sweden during the Viking Age. Surrounded by towering mountains, icy fjords, and unforgiving seas, they learned from childhood that survival depended on courage and the ability to master the ocean. Their greatest achievement was the Viking longship, a masterpiece of engineering built from strong oak with a shallow draft that allowed it to cross vast oceans and travel deep into rivers. Guided by the stars, the sun, changing winds, ocean currents, migrating birds, and generations of inherited knowledge, Viking captains navigated waters that frightened most medieval sailors. By the late 10th century, Norse settlements had already expanded from Scandinavia to Iceland and then to Greenland, proving that these explorers could survive in some of the harshest environments on Earth. Every successful voyage encouraged them to push even farther west, where rumors spoke of distant lands beyond the endless Atlantic. Among the most determined leaders was Eric the Red, whose settlement in Greenland became the western gateway of the Viking world. From this isolated frontier, a new generation of explorers prepared for an even greater expedition, one that would carry them beyond every known map and bring them closer than any European had ever come to the mysterious continent waiting across the ocean. Leif Erikson, the son of Eric the Red, inherited far more than his father's courage. Raised in the isolated settlements of Greenland, he grew up listening to stories of distant horizons and unexplored seas. Around the year 1000, an unexpected account from the Icelandic merchant Bjarni Herjolfsson changed everything. After being blown off course by violent storms, Bjarni claimed he had seen unknown lands far to the west, covered with forests unlike the icy landscapes of Greenland. Although he never went ashore, his story ignited Leif's imagination. Determined to uncover the truth, Leif purchased Bjarni's ship, assembled a trusted crew of experienced Viking sailors, and prepared for a voyage into waters no European expedition had intentionally explored before. Guided by the sun, stars, shifting winds, and generations of Norse navigation, the expedition sailed west across the cold Atlantic. After days at sea, unfamiliar coastlines finally appeared on the horizon. The explorers first encountered a rocky land, then a region of dense forests rich with timber, a resource almost impossible to find in Greenland. Continuing farther south, they reached a fertile landscape with open meadows, rivers filled with fish, and abundant natural resources. According to the Norse sagas, Leif named this remarkable place Vinland, a land that offered hope, opportunity, and survival. Without realizing it, the discovery of Vinland marked the beginning of an entirely new chapter for the Viking explorers. Unlike the frozen landscapes of Greenland, this land offered dense forests filled with valuable timber, clear rivers overflowing with fish, fertile meadows, and a milder climate that promised resources their western colonies desperately needed. Leif Erikson and his crew established a small seasonal settlement, building sturdy wooden shelters and workshops using local materials. They repaired their ships, gathered food, explored the surrounding coastline, and prepared timber to transport back across the Atlantic. According to the Norse sagas, the expedition viewed Vinland not as a place for conquest, but as an opportunity for survival and expansion. However, they soon realized they were not alone. The region was already home to indigenous peoples who had lived there for thousands of years before the Vikings arrived. The Norse called these unfamiliar inhabitants Skrælings, though historians believe they were likely ancestors of Native American communities living in the region. Early encounters appear to have been peaceful, with both groups cautiously observing one another and exchanging simple goods. Curiosity briefly overcame fear as each side tried to understand the other's language, customs, and way of life. Yet cultural differences, mutual suspicion, and competition for resources slowly increased tensions. What had begun as a hopeful expedition into a rich new land was about to face challenges far greater than harsh weather or dangerous seas, threatening the future of the first known European settlement in North America. The Viking settlement in Vinland survived only a few years before the dream of a permanent colony began to fade. As more encounters took place, misunderstandings between the Norse settlers and the indigenous communities gradually increased. Differences in language, customs, and competition for valuable resources created growing tension, making peaceful coexistence increasingly difficult. Outnumbered and separated from Greenland by thousands of kilometers of unpredictable ocean, the Vikings faced constant challenges in maintaining supplies and defending their remote outposts. According to the Norse sagas, repeated conflicts convinced the settlers that the risks outweighed the rewards. They eventually abandoned Vinland and sailed back across the Atlantic, leaving behind only traces of their remarkable journey. Over the centuries, their stories slowly disappeared from mainstream European history, surviving only in medieval Icelandic sagas that many scholars dismissed as legend. Everything changed in 1960 when archaeologists uncovered the remains of a genuine Viking settlement at L'Anse-aux Meadows in Newfoundland, Canada. The discovery of Norse buildings, iron-working evidence, and unmistakable Viking artifacts confirmed that Europeans had reached North America nearly 5 centuries before Columbus. Today, this extraordinary site stands as powerful evidence that history is often more complex than the stories we inherit. The Vikings did not establish a lasting colony, but their courage, skill, and determination forever earned them a place among the greatest explorers the world has ever known.